You keep believing, but nothing seems to change. Days become weeks, weeks become months, and sometimes months become years. You watch other people receive the things you have been praying for, and somewhere deep inside, a question begins to grow. God, when will it be my turn? If that is where you are today, listen carefully, because this message is for you. God says, your waiting season is finally coming to an end. You may not see it yet. You may not understand how it will happen. But what looks like silence to you has never been silence to God. Every prayer was heard. Every tear was seen. Every night you cried when nobody knew about it was witnessed. And every moment you wanted to give up, God was still holding you. You thought nothing was happening, but something was happening behind the scenes. You were being prepared. You were being strengthened. You were being protected from things you could not see. And now, the season is changing. There was once a person who had spent years waiting for one breakthrough. They had tried everything they knew. They worked hard. They prayed. They stayed patient. But year after year, the door remained closed. At first, they were hopeful. They believed that tomorrow would be different. Then tomorrow became next week. Next week became next month. And eventually, they stopped expecting anything. One night, they sat alone in their room. The house was quiet. There was no one around. They looked toward the window and whispered, God, I don't know how much longer I can wait. They weren't angry. They weren't asking for riches. They weren't asking for a perfect life. They simply wanted one sign, one indication that their prayers had not disappeared into nothing. And then they prayed, God, if you are still with me, please remind me. After that prayer, nothing immediately changed. The room was still quiet. The problem was still there. The situation looked exactly the same, but something had changed inside their heart. For the first time in a long time, they decided, I will keep going. They didn't know it then, but that decision was the beginning of their new season. Sometimes God doesn't change the situation first. Sometimes He changes you first, because the blessing you are asking for may require a stronger version of you. The door you are praying to enter may require wisdom you haven't developed yet. The responsibility you are asking God to give you may require patience you are still learning. And the relationship you are asking God to restore may require healing that has not happened yet. So when God makes you wait, it doesn't always mean no. Sometimes it means not yet. And not yet is very different from never. You may have mistaken God's delay for rejection. But what if the delay was protection? What if God was protecting you from receiving something too early? What if the job you desperately wanted would have taken you away from the path meant for you? What if the relationship you begged God to save would have caused you deeper pain later? What if the door that refused to open was actually saving you from walking into the wrong room? You may not understand today, but one day you may look back and say, now I understand why God made me wait. There is something powerful about waiting. Waiting teaches you what comfort cannot teach. It teaches patience. It teaches faith. It teaches you how to continue when there is no evidence. Anyone can believe when everything is going well. But faith becomes powerful when you believe while everything looks impossible. Maybe that is where you are right now. You don't have proof. You don't have answers. You don't know when the breakthrough will come. But you're still here. You're still praying. You're still trying. And that matters. God sees the person who keeps going, even when they are tired. God sees the person who smiles in front of everyone but cries when they are alone. God sees the person who encourages others while secretly needing encouragement themselves. And God says, I have not forgotten you. Maybe your waiting season has been about finances. You've worked hard, but money still disappears. You've tried to save, but unexpected expenses keep coming. You've prayed for stability. You've asked God for an opportunity. You wonder when you'll finally breathe without worrying about tomorrow. God says, keep going. Your current situation is not the final chapter of your life. Maybe you're waiting for healing in a relationship. Someone walked away. Someone disappointed you. Someone broke your trust. And part of you still hopes things will become better. But God may be teaching you that your peace cannot depend on another person's decision. Sometimes, the greatest blessing is not getting someone back. Sometimes, the greatest blessing is getting yourself back. Your confidence, your peace, your joy, your ability to sleep without worrying about someone else's actions. God may be restoring you before He restores anything else. Maybe you're waiting for your purpose. You look at other people and wonder, what am I doing with my life? Everyone seems to be moving forward. Everyone seems to have a plan, and you feel stuck. But listen carefully. Being hidden does not mean being forgotten. Some of the greatest things grow in places nobody can see. A seed spends time underground before anyone sees the tree. The silence underneath the soil does not mean nothing is happening. Growth is happening where your eyes cannot see it. And perhaps that is what God has been doing with you. Growing you quietly, preparing you privately, strengthening you secretly, so that when the right season arrives, you will be ready. There is a reason you survived everything that once made you think you wouldn't. Think about it. There were moments when you thought, I can't handle this, but you did. There were nights when you thought, this is the end. But morning came. There were situations you never imagined surviving. Yet here you are, still breathing, still standing, still moving. That means your story is not over. You have already survived chapters you once thought would destroy you. So don't let today's uncertainty convince you that tomorrow has no hope. You haven't come this far for nothing. God says, stop measuring my faithfulness by the speed of your circumstances. Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean God isn't working. You cannot always see what is being arranged behind the scenes. One conversation can change your life. One opportunity can change your direction. One person can introduce you to an opportunity you never expected. One decision can take you into an entirely different chapter. And sometimes, everything changes very quickly after a long season of nothing changing. That is why you must not give up just because today looks ordinary. Your breakthrough may begin with something small, a message, a phone call, an idea, an opportunity, a meeting, a door, a decision. You don't know what God may use to change your story. So don't despise small beginnings. Don't ignore the little opportunities. Don't reject the small step because you were expecting a giant miracle. Sometimes the miracle begins with one simple instruction. Try again. Send the application again. Make the call again. Start the business again. Pray again. Forgive again. Believe again. Get up again. The enemy wants you to believe that because it didn't work before, it will never work. But your past attempt does not determine your future outcome. You are not the same person you were before. You've learned. You've grown. You've become wiser. You've become stronger. And now you're entering a different season. There may be something you have been praying for that God has not given you yet. Don't let impatience make you grab something that was never meant for you. A wrong opportunity can look attractive when you're tired of waiting. A wrong relationship can feel comforting when you're lonely. A wrong decision can look easier when you're frustrated. But never trade your future for temporary relief. Wait for what brings peace. Wait for what aligns with your values. Wait for what doesn't require you to destroy yourself just to keep it. God does not need you to force the right door open. The right door will open at the right time. And perhaps today is the reminder you needed. Not because everything will magically become perfect overnight, but because you need to remember. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. Your life is not over, because your timeline looks different from everyone else's. Stop comparing your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. You don't know what they had to walk through. You don't know what they lost. You don't know what they endured. Focus on your journey. Your path is your path. Your timing is your timing. Your story is your story. One day, you may look back at this season. You may remember the nights you cried. You may remember the prayers you repeated. You may remember the moments you almost gave up. And you may say, God, now I understand. You will understand why some doors closed, why some people left, why certain plans failed, why some opportunities disappeared, why the waiting lasted longer than you expected. Because sometimes the delay wasn't punishment. It was preparation. Sometimes the closed door wasn't rejection. It was redirection. Sometimes the unanswered prayer wasn't ignored. It was protection. And sometimes God was simply saying, trust me. I'm preparing something you cannot see. Amen.